So I guess this is video day, my third video of the hour. Just got another topic came to mind, so I figured I'd just keep running my mouth. So, the Rockets. Want to get a little bit of Rocket conversation going. I've made a video about the Rockets. You guys know how I feel. I don't think it can work, but what I will say is how I think it will go. This is what I see coming for the Rockets. The Houston Rockets, they have a lot of the same pieces that they had from last year. So the continuity when Russell Westbrook isn't on the floor should be even stronger than it was last year. And I think that gives them a leg up over certain other teams when Russell isn't on the floor. But I have to say this. When you have the two highest usage players of all time, when you're talking about the two highest usage players of all time, you're considering the fact that one of them is going to have to make dire adjustments. We're talking about catastrophic adjustments, big boy adjustments. There is no way on God's green earth, even if you create the perfect system, that a guy like Russell Westbrook, who's had the same role his entire career, is not going to revert back to the things that come naturally to him when the pressure gets tight. All that talk about him being James Harden's best friend and good friend since he was 10, that is great. That's wonderful. That means they're going to have great times off the court, on the court. It should be a nice way about it. But that don't do nothing for your X's and O's on the basketball court. We know Mike D'Antoni. He does not care about defense. He never has. But on the Rockets, they've had some key defensive players in his tenure that have made it so that it masks his problems with that side of the ball. Clint Capella is defensive-minded. They have several guys. P.J. Tucker is defensive-minded. They have enough there to make it work defensively to a degree. What the problem is Russell Westbrook is not a defensive player. He gets defensive stats like Boogie. I look at him like Boogie in that way. They're not defensive players, but they're still going. You wouldn't know it if you look at the stat sheet. But he's not a defensive player. What I think could end up happening is, I think Mike D'Antoni is going to find a way to scheme up some stuff that works for them, find a rotation situation that works for them. But what they're going to run into is, just as I said, when things get tight and pressurized, you're going to see the worst come out of Russell Westbrook, and he's going to be disruptive. That's what I think is going to happen. He's not going to play well off the ball, even though he's said in his presser that he believes himself, to be someone that plays off the ball very well. Not if you're not hitting your three, buddy. It's not going to work. And most importantly, it forces him not to do what he does best. And I don't like that at all. If you bring in Russell Westbrook, you want him to be Russell Westbrook. You don't want him to turn into somebody else. You don't want him to have to fight himself so much till he's out there uncomfortable. And that's essentially what's going to have to happen. James Harden, on the other hand, I don't think it's as big of an issue for him because naturally his skill set is that of a facilitator, even though that's been lost in his tenure as a Rocket. I haven't forgotten what his role was with the Thunder. It was mostly to facilitate. They would put him in the game to make things make sense between Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and Reggie Jackson. That's how that worked, because none of those guys, out of the three of them, were passers. They were not doing anything but looking for their own shot, and there wasn't a whole lot of ball movement when they were on the floor until James Harden came in and facilitated, made sure that guys got their buckets, made sure they got their ball in the right situations. People have forgotten about that because he's been a Rocket for so long in this incredibly selfish system. But that was not what made him valuable on the Thunder. What made him valuable on the Thunder was his facilitating skills and his ability to make guys better. So if he can reach back into his bag, unlearn some of this crap that he's picked up over the last 7-8 years, however long it's been, I think he can help Russell Westbrook a great deal. The question is, does that take him away from what he's best at? And the answer is, of course. You want him with the ball in his hands, breaking people down, doing the shake and bake, using his big size to get in the paint, and then ultimately be perfect from the free throw line. That's what you want James Harden to do. You want him to shoot threes, do his jab step and his travel that they've now allowed, that step back that is not supposed to be legal. I don't know why the NBA allows that step back. That's an entirely different conversation. That is a travel. It's been a travel since I was 9 years old. It's a freaking travel. Stepping back without dribbling the ball is a freaking travel. Okay? But anyway, they allow it today. It is what it is. So you want him doing that. My thing is this. You're asking those two guys not to do what comes to them naturally, what got them basically into the Hall of Fame, which is where they're both headed easily, first ballot. And you're saying that it's going to be a betterment for the team. It's just like, I look at it the same way as I look at back when Phil Jackson asked Kobe Bryant to facilitate and be the facilitator. That was an awful, awful thing. It helped the team because we had such a top-heavy squad. It made so that other guys who weren't as talented were able to get easy shots, and it made Kobe Bryant snap out of some of the things that he was doing naturally, which was shooting over 5 guys and doing all kinds of crazy stuff that was ill-advised, but he would still make nevertheless. It got him out of some of those habits, and it forced him to think team first, and it helped him in the long run. But, you know, it was hard for him to accomplish that, and most importantly, it kept him from doing what he was great at. And that's what you're asking both of these Rockets to do. I just don't like it. I don't like it, man. I'm looking at the situation, and I'm saying if I were trying to figure out how to ruin the Rockets, one of the things I would come up with is to bring Russell Westbrook there. Like, honestly. And I said that even before this deal was possible. I said, man, that is a disaster. That is one of the biggest disasters that could possibly take place. And they did it. They really did this thing. Like, and then you got these folks on TV talking about how it's going to work and all of this. How is the question I have for all of you. How? If this is a basketball game, video games, yeah, you can make it work because you can make Westbrook facilitate. You can make James Harden take less shots. There are ways to make them do those things in theory, not in real life, and certainly not when the pressure's on. It's just like they said about changing people's shots. When you try to change your shot and you're an NBA player, it's very, very difficult to stick with what you're learning when the pressure's on. You're going to go back to that muscle memory. You're going to go back to what you do naturally. You're not going to use your training necessarily, especially the first year. It's going to take several years before that to be your new norm. And we're talking about 2 players who've done this at the highest level for a very long time. And now you're asking them to do that right away and be champions and all that. It's just, in this climate with this Western Conference, I think the Rockets will have a good regular season. I think they can win upwards of 51, 52 games because they're going to outclass people with their talent. And James Harden has ability to just take over games, whether he has talent around him or not. He's that kind of good. But when it matters most, when it's time to scheme against the same team 7 games, and they're scheming against you, and you got 2 ISO players, high usage players that are not known for anything but going downhill, they're easy to scheme against, man. It's easy to scheme against, especially when they're not defensive minded on the other end. They're out. First round, out. That's my prediction for the Rockets. Unless something happens that I don't foresee, a trade, or if something miraculous takes place to where those 2 players don't have to play at the same time together, which is the only way I really see it working, as I've stated before in previous videos. If they can find a way to keep both of them off the floor and only interchangeably play them, I think that's the only shot they really have to make a playoff run. And that, in and of itself, ain't going to get you out the first round. You need both of them cohesive to get out of the first round. So I see under no circumstances, none, that team gets out of the first round unless they just run into the right team. They would have to just run into the right team that couldn't see them for whatever reason. Other than that, they run into the Lakers, the Clippers, the Denver Nuggets, the Utah Jazz. They're out. All of those teams are knocking them off. So that's what I say about the Rockets. That's how I feel about the Rockets. I think their bench is a bit overrated. I really do. I think their coaching staff, all of that stuff is solid. I don't hate Mike D'Antoni. I thought he got a bad break in L.A. with no one on that team that fit his system, and we knew what that was about. It was just a stupid decision to hire him. But, yeah, at the end of the day, I don't see it. I hear everyone talking. I've seen how they look on the video game. They look great. But when it's time for those men to take a step back when it matters most, I don't think they'll be able to do it. Not both of them. Maybe one of them, maybe Harden, but not Westbrook. I would have to see that to believe that. Anyway, that's all I got to say, everybody. I hope everyone's enjoying their day. And, yeah, take care. Peace.